All right, everybody, welcome to the Getting You Wellthy podcast. I'm your host, Elliot Wilcox, in-home personal trainer and executive wellness manager. Remember that the purpose of this podcast is to hit 3 goals for your fitness and wellness, and those goals are a path of long-term success, to provide the best ROI for your efforts, and to help balance your personal fitness and wellness to match your lifestyle. So this is the first time ever that we're going to do a guest speaker today. Today I have one of my friends from Masters Swimming that kind of helped me get into the triathlon space. His name is Plevell. He does triathlon, sprint triathlons, and he is now really getting into Masters Swimming. And so I'll have Lou introduce himself, and we'll kind of get into the show today.
Well, thanks, Elliot. I'm surprised to hear I was your first, so thanks. It's quite the honor. But yeah, I've been in the Army for about 26 years, and moved back about 10 years ago, back to Hastings, and so since that time, I really haven't done much on physical fitness. I was after retirement, I worked for the federal government, so I retired not too long ago, and that's where I started getting into triathlons.
Very cool. And so what is like your background with health and fitness and exercise, and then like how that kind of helped you with triathlon or swimming and such?
Well, I've always been physical type of kid and guy. My dad was not only a Phy Ed teacher in town, but he also was athletic director. So physical fitness and athletics were kind of ingrained into us. So early in my childhood, I kind of started out with your typical sports, football, baseball. Soccer started becoming popular in the late 70s, so did a little bit of that. But really, the sports that really defined me, I didn't really discover until I was about ninth grade, where I happened to try out for the cross country team in junior high, and then I went on to do track. And I forgot to mention, the whole time I was also doing swimming, starting at 12. I think I was 12 years old. So swimming and running have pretty much been my mainstay, fairly early in my childhood. And then in high school, I did continue with swimming and cross country running and track, and did those for 3 years. And then I went on to the University of Minnesota, where I continued to run cross country there. Later on, I transferred to St. Cloud, and I continued to run marathons, with my best time being around 250 at Grandma's, and then I think I had a 301 or 302, 3 hours and 2 minutes at, I think it was the first Twin Cities marathon back in the 80s. And after that, I went into the Army, and as you can imagine, the Army promotes physical fitness, and so yeah, we pretty much 5:30 every morning, 5 days a week, we're on the field doing either calisthenics or running or something like that. So I pretty much continued for my 26-year career. And in the meantime, there were a lot of like-minded people that want to stay physical fit. So we did all kinds of things, like I think one, continue to run marathons, but also did things like the perimeter run, where we had to race around the island of Oahu. We did that in a team of 4. I think it was like a 24-hour race. Did that 3 times, I think. There was a lot of other things that we did, continue mud runs and relays like that. So like I said earlier, once I retired from the military, though, I kind of got stagnant. There was no more push to do physical fitness. I really didn't have any goals or objectives, so I just kind of floated out there, and kind of just was a regular Joe, and went to work, and came home and ate supper, watched TV, and that was pretty much it until just about 2 years ago, when I started coming into triathlons.
Cool. That's a lot. So when you got into triathlons, you started with sprint, tell us a little bit of that process of like, that's a new sport. Like, what were you going through then?
Okay, that's kind of a long story, but it was 2019, and I was at a photo club meeting at Fort Snelling State Park with my wife, and one of the guys in the club, his wife just got back from Albuquerque, New Mexico, doing the sprint triathlon at the National Senior Games, and she was telling me about it. And I thought the whole time, she was in her, I think, 70s, and she was telling me about it, and I was thinking the whole time, well, I have a swimming background, I have a running background, and she's 75, and I'm only in my, mid 50s, so if she can do it, I can do it. But I didn't really realize at the time, I committed myself, but I didn't really know what I was getting into. So I went back and started the research what it would take to qualify for the National Senior Games, research what it would take to do a triathlon and what a sprint triathlon entailed. And, sprint triathlons tend to change as distance. It always seems the swims can be anywhere from 440, yards to, 900. And the bike can be anywhere from 12 or 20K to, 18 miles. It varies. So kind of took a look at that, and I found out that in order to qualify for the 2021 National Senior Games, I'd have to do a qualifying sprint triathlon in 2020 before the month of December. Otherwise, I would not be considered qualified for the games in 2021 at Fort Lauderdale. So I went to work then and kind of looked at what it would take and what races I could train for. And I took a look, and I saw one early in June is the Fairmont, Minnesota Triathlon, which pretty much mirrored the same distances as Fort Lauderdale. And so that was the one I picked to do. And I started training for it. The next step, before I started my training, was finding a training plan. And, where do you go? Do you just dream something up? So I went on the internet and I searched for free training plans. And I found one that was, I think it's called the Original 13-Week Sprint Triathlon Training Plan by Coach Ron. And, basically the only thing it said that you needed to be able to run for 20 minutes at any pace, swim for 20 minutes at any pace, and I think bike for 30 minutes at any pace. So I said, geez, I can handle that. So I went to, this was, I think the fall of 2019. I started making sure I met those requirements, and with the plan to start the actual training program in 2021 in the wintertime. So that's what I did, and everything seemed to go as planned. I mean, it was right on target. I was feeling good. I was feeling like I was getting stronger, getting healthier, and the plan seemed to be working. And I should say that the whole goal of this Coach Ron's plan was just to get you to finish a sprint triathlon. So that was basically it. But as I progressed, and as winter came and spring started to come, there was a dark cloud moving over, and I think you know what that was. It was COVID was starting to move in, and shortly at that time I was training at the YMCA, and they closed that I think in April time frame. And then I was training at Inver Grove, swimming, and they closed that pool. And I thought, well, geez, if I can just hold on until summer, the outdoor pool will open up, and I'll be able to, train swimming there. And really my whole training plan, the biking was going well, the running was going well. I was starting to get worried about swimming because it's been about 40 years since I swam. So I was kind of like, here comes we're getting close to May. I know the outdoor pool will open and I'll be good. And sure enough, they weren't going to open it. And another victim of COVID-19. So I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And I talked to my wife, Alicia, and I said, I'm really worried about this because swimming seems to be my weak point. And if I don't get that under control, I'm not going to be able to compete in the Fairmont Triathlon in June. So she said, well, don't worry about it. Something will come around. And so, I was talking to my sister, and she goes, well, geez, I have a 15-yard pool. It's not very big, but you're welcome to use that. So she goes, I'll have I'll have my husband, open it up and clean it out, and nobody's swimming in there, so go ahead and you can have the pool to yourself. So that's what I did. I swam in the 15-yard pool almost every night for about several weeks, and it was tough. I mean, there was a lot of laps, get 1,000, 2,000 yards in a 15-yard pool, but it worked out, and it was, like they say, Elliot, beggars can't be choosers. So I took what I got and I made it work. But in the meantime, things got worse. The Fairmont Triathlon was canceled, so I wasn't sure, and I said, well, there's other triathlons that are scheduled, and I'll sign up for something that'll work. And in the meantime, I kept extending my training plan out. I moved my build phase. I kept extending the build phase of my triathlon plan. Just trying to buy time. I wasn't I really wasn't that smart on the whole training plan thing. I figured if I just keep repeating weeks, I'd be okay. And for the most part, I think I was, but it got to be long. And anyways, I found a couple other triathlons that I thought would work for me, and I signed up, but sequentially each one was canceled due to COVID. So I started to get worried. It was now approaching August, and of course, according to the senior games, I had to qualify by December that year in order to compete the next year. So I was starting to get worried, and as you know, Minnesota doesn't have a whole lot of triathlons to offer in October, November, and December. So I figured it August or nothing. So I think it was about 3 triathlons and were canceled on me. And finally, I saw the Big Lake Triathlon, which was a little longer swim, a little longer bike, had a 5K run than what they do at the senior games. But I said, again, beggars can't be choosers. And I talked to the race director, and he says, if we can make it happen, we will. And got an email, at the end of July saying, yeah, they got all the permissions to go ahead with it, and they were going to have it and sign up. And so I did. And that's was my first race. And I'll tell you what, I really didn't know what to expect. I was really nervous. I had my hybrid bike out there. I did get a tri-suit, but I didn't have a wetsuit. And I had my running shoes, and my whole objective was to go in there and finish, and I did, and I was pretty happy with that because that basically was my qualifier, and that's where I was at that point. And then after that, my wife and I sat down and we really assessed where I needed to go from there. So that was the point where we really got serious, and she volunteered to be my coach. The price was right, so I said okay. She sat down with me. We looked at all my equipment. We upgraded my bike. We got me a wetsuit. We came up with an annual training plan, and pretty much from there. And it's been hard work ever since, and leading up to this summer, which was my first true full triathlon season. At least that's what I call it. So.
Wow, that's a really long but really good story about
I told you it was a long story.
your pursuit on just trying to get that first one in, especially to qualify for games.
Exactly.
So how would you say with it being your first season, how do you think it went overall?
I really was surprised that personally I thought I did well. I had a good season. I started out with as you can see in the background, that's the spring or Lake Elmo or Oakdale Spring Duathlon. That was my first race in May time frame, and it was a bike run. It was pretty much because the season up here for triathlons hadn't started yet, so I thought that would be a good kickoff, a good shakeout, and it was. And competition wasn't steep, but I managed to get first place in my age group, so I was happy with that, and I felt like I was ready to move on to my next scheduled triathlon, or first scheduled triathlon of the summer, which was, as you know, was the Grand Man Buffalo, which you did as well. So, yeah. And then, as you know, that proved to be a challenge for a couple reasons. I really thought it was going to be kind of cold going into that race, and it turned out that it was extremely warm with high winds. And again, as you know, the swim really proved to be challenging, and probably, I would consider myself fortunate that I actually completed it, because was not prepared for the types of waves that were present. Plus the fact that it was only supposed to be I think a 400-yard swim that turned out to be about around 900. And last report, or the report I heard, is 74 people were pulled out of the water because it was so rough. And be honest, Elliot, I don't think the bike was any easier. I mean, because it was windy as well, and I really fought that. But I finished. I think I got an age group finish of 9th, and I was okay with that, because you know it seemed like my times improved even with all the challenges in that race.
Yeah, that one was definitely difficult. Yeah, I remember everything you're talking about, and we even ran together for a little bit at the end of that one.
That's right.
Yeah. And
so I still run into people, and they still talk about that Buffalo race,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I don't think anybody's going to forget that one.
Yeah. But at least it was early in the season.
Right. And so talk about, like, did you get faster over this, the summer? Did you place better as summer went along? You find like little easier tips and tricks that, kind of helped?
Yeah. My next race then was I can't remember. I think it was just at the end of June, was the Turtleman Triathlon, and that was about a 900-yard swim, which was a little longer than what I felt comfortable about doing. But and then I think the bike, I can't remember. I think bike was 12 miles and it was a 5K race. But I was a little nervous about the swim, but it was a really nice day, and the water was just flat, and I got in the water, and really felt comfortable, and was really happy with my swim time. And I noticed that I was kind of surprised because, being actually mulling my third sprint triathlon, I came out of the water and I didn't see a whole lot of people in the transition area. So I was kind of wondering if I did something wrong. So, I think it was 170, some people had the 29th fastest swim time. So I did pretty good there as far as the swimming. It really set the tone for the rest of the race. I had a good bike too, but going in the bike or going in the run, I still was kind of lagging, and I was feeling the effects of, both the swim and the bike. So that would prove to be a little bit more challenging, but the end result was I got second in my age group, and I felt pretty good about the overall performance. I felt like I was making progress and improving, and like you said, I felt stronger, and my times appeared to be getting substantially faster. So yeah, pretty satisfied with that race.
That's awesome. And so now that triathlon season is over, so different kind of mind shift. So, like, what are you currently training for? Like, what are your, future goals for, whatever that is, or, what's up for next summer?
Well, training, I think, and we've spoke about this, and I just mentioned it, I had a background as a runner, even as a collegiate runner, but maybe it's age catching up with me because I'm 58. I'm not sure, but my run is just not progressing like my bike and my swim. So I've been kind of focusing on that, and the standard sprint run is usually 5K. So I've been really working on improving my 5K time and really focusing on that. Well, continue to work on my swimming. And my bike right now is probably the one thing I'm not focusing on as much, but I will probably get back into that this coming winter. So the run is probably the one thing I think I can really improve my overall time on. As far as the future, well, right now, and I didn't mention this, so the National Seniors Games was supposed to be in November, and again, because of COVID, it got pushed back to May of 2022. So I've got that coming up this spring, and that's going to be my really focus point for training, primary focus point for training throughout the winter. But in the meantime, I've also planning to do the Pleasant Lake Sprint Triathlon in Arizona, which will be kind of a dress rehearsal for me, so I can, get my bike on an airplane and practice and see how I feel at a destination type race. So kind of shake out the bugs before I go into Fort Lauderdale in May, where I'm hoping to get to at least get a top 20 overall finish on that, and maybe top 10 age group finish. I'm not sure, but I got high hopes, so we'll see how that goes. And then the next thing, probably if I get back, I think this year I'll focus a little bit more on U.S. Tri sanctioned races. So there's Clear Lake, and I should say that National Senior Games and also Lake Pleasant are both sanctioned by the USA Tri too. So I like to focus on that. So possibly, I can qualify for the national age group championships, next year. So we'll see. I got big dreams. So will it come true? I don't know, but I'm going to continue to work hard on it.
Okay, yeah. Are you going to stick with, sprint triathlons? Or are you going to move up to Olympic and then half irons, full irons?
Well, why did I know you were going to ask that? I definitely can see by the end of the next summer doing at least Olympic, and I've kind of been thinking about a half. I'm not sure where it would be, but or when it would be, but I'm thinking in the near future, probably within the next year and a half. So I think that's definitely definitely doable in the near future for me. But I do love the sport, and I'll be honest, Elliot, I'm kind of torn. I'm not sure if I love racing or I love training more. I mean, I really love training, and I guess racing is just a validation of my overall, health and fitness. It kind of tells you where you're at. But I love them. I love them both. But I do enjoy the training, and the big thing there is, just stay healthy so I can continue to train and continue to race.
Yeah, yeah. So, you're pretty infant, you're pretty
Yep.
much in your infancy stage of
Right.
triathlon. You've had a background in athletics, and also being at like your later years in life. Like if you had somebody that was listening, of any age or your age, like what advice would you give them, if they're looking to progress, or, different things that you would have done differently,
Sure.
do you have any kind of suggestions for that?
Sure. First would be stock up on Icy Hot. Really helps. But all jokes aside, two things come to my mind. This first thing is, as training for, even a sprint triathlon or any level triathlon takes a lot of your time if you're really focused on it. So, you come up with things to include the family. Like I mentioned earlier, my wife wanted to help coach me, and so that kind of included her in the process. So it's kind of like, training time, but family time all at the same time. So I think it's important to look at ways you can incorporate your family into your training, so you're not, cutting them short. And I think the second thing is, what's kind of interesting. I was over talking to my 85-year-old father several months back after they postponed the National Scene Games for the first time. I was a little disappointed, and he turned to me and he goes, "Well, you know what this is really all about?" And I said, "No, what's it all about?" "It's about you getting healthier." And I thought, geez, wisdom from my 85-year-old father. Who would have thought? I said it made sense. And I thought about it. And I said, he's right. It's really, it is training and it is racing, but what's really about is getting healthier. And unless you're planning to go to the Olympics or be a professional, that's what it's about for us, being healthier. So, focus on that, on your health, and everything will be all right. And make sure you're staying, injured free, so you can continue to do what you like to do.
That's some really good advice right there.
Thanks.
And so it's really good. And so, is there anything that you like to add, from our conversation today? Anything else?
No, I just like to say, in the process, and like you said, I am in my infancy. I haven't been doing this that long. There's a lot of people who know a lot more than I do. And so it's really important to make connections and learn from other people as far as, what they learned and their mistakes, as well as, learning from your mistakes. So I think, what I appreciate is the people I've met on the road, while training for triathlon. So that's been a real benefit and plus.
Yep, great. Yep. I think connections are really, really big.
Yeah,
keeping that community alive, and
it
you can
is.
even add them on Strava, and you can follow their progress a little bit.
Yeah, it is fun. Yes.
So, all right. Well, I think that will kind of conclude us for today. In the meantime, thank you everybody for listening in. That was Lou Plevell, a friend of mine from Master Swimming and a fellow triathlete. And remember, this is the Getting You Wellthy podcast, and I'm your host, Elliot Wilcox, in-home fitness trainer and executive wellness manager. Take care, everybody, and have a good day.